Welcome to Stars Podcast. Through self-defense, mixed martial arts, nutrition, family, and all things in between, we share our journey of how we hack our mind and body to get the maximum return out of each day. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the journey. Welcome back to Stars Podcast, your growth mindset mecca. This is your host, Ron Jordan, coming at you from Rocinante Studios in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. This episode is brought to you by Valor Personal Defense Group. Self-defense is a perishable skill. Only through continuous and consistent training will one be able to effectively employ a skill set that they have learned. Valor Personal Defense Group system is designed to offer constant, consistent, and affordable training to all individuals wanting to learn and stay sharp. We keep our firearms courses affordable to facilitate our continuous training philosophy. Now listeners of Stars Podcast get 15% off firearms courses with coupon code STARS21, which can be booked at valorcombatacademy.com. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Stars Podcast. This is your host, Ron Jordan, coming at you at Rocinante Studios in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. Today we have a special guest with us. His name is Adam Souza. He is the CEO of Urban Extracts, which is a CBD company focused on doing right by their customers and employees. They source CBD locally and top-notch CBD products. You can find them at urbanextracts.co and use VFriends for 20% off your order. He's also a goo owner, which we'll get into what the hell that means. He ended up getting a tattoo of this goo, so we'll dive into that just a bit. Anywhere you want to see this guy, he's on Instagram, he's on Facebook, and everywhere that he is, it's what did Adam say? And I'm curious, why? What did Adam say? And welcome to the show, Adam. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. It was kind of, I think it just got set up last night after some house chats. Clubhouse has been so fire. I had downloaded it a few months ago. Tried to get into it. I tried to join some crypto spaces, some cannabis spaces on there, and I just never was able to find my niche, of people. And now with this VFriends stuff, it's I was on Clubhouse. If I checked, I don't even want to check my phone because it was probably 6 or 7 hours yesterday. I mean, I still got work done. I added 3.5 pages to the proposal I was working on. And still dealt with all my other CBD stuff going on and a bunch of calls with my videographer to finish the video drop for the tattoo. But what did Adam say? We'll start there because you asked that. It kind of came from, I was driving around, I was delivering weed for this, they called themselves a dispensary. They were not a legal dispensary.
Okay.
And so I was technically illegally selling weed for these people. And I had a lot of time to drive around, and I spent a lot of time listening to Gary, and he would just always say, if you want to start something, just do it, hit record. And I just did. I went in my voice recorder on my iPhone. In my grow room was the first time that I was I can't remember what it was. It was one of my first episodes I ever did of the What Did Adam Say podcast. And it wasn't even a podcast. It was just basically I went into the bathroom of my grow room to get away from the fan noise, just to vent about a thought. And then I was in the car and I did the same thing. And I remember that rant was about how life is a garden. And if you don't take care of your garden during growing season and pay close attention to it and improve on it always, you're going to have a crappy yield at harvest time. So just doing little things like that, I started thinking okay, I think I have something. I have a few pieces of audio now. What the hell do I call that? For me, at that point in my life, I was transitioning from music into entrepreneurship, basically. I had gone to a music competition in LA in 2015, and I feel like I smashed it. There was a lot of politics going on at that organization of people that did not like me at the time, and I didn't go through as a finalist. And for some reason, it was just such a like, huh, maybe this isn't what I'm meant to do. Like I'm good at music, but I'm not that good at music. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's time to move on. So I was kind of at a weird spot in my life, and I think I was just driving around the car. I had just had like a good conversation with one of my customers after I dropped off a product for them, and I was just like, "What did Adam say? What did Adam say? What the fuck? That's good. What
That
did
is,
Adam?" And I just like immediately, who did I hit up? I can't remember. I hit up one of my friends and I was like, "Dude, what do you think of this name?" And he's like, "Wow, okay, all right, I see you." And it just stuck.
yeah,
And the more I used it, the more I realized it was like the best branding I've done so far, because I would go to events and I'd run out of cards, or I'd forget a card, or we're just meeting somebody randomly. And I'd be like, "Oh, sorry, just follow me on Instagram. What did Adam say?" And 2 hours later, 3 hours later, the next day, they
right.
follow me, because it sticks in their head.
Yeah, it sticks in a couple different levels for me. Is like when you're trying to recall something, it's like the strip club that's called The Office. Like I'm going to the office. It's got a double meaning. It's it sounds it sounds so cliche, but it's like one of those things where, man, what did Adam say? Oh crap, that's his name. you know, and that's what stuck for me on the name. I think it's cool, and it's easy for people to remember in terms of like just the phonics of it
Yep.
from a marketing standpoint. It's not something that's like really ambiguous or whatever. So it's something that I've always struggled with because I suck at naming stuff. Like I used to do beer brewing, and
Mm.
trying to come up with names for the beers that I was brewing was like, because I would do competitions and stuff. They were the lamest names in the world. And then like I would talk to my buddies and they would be like, "Oh, you should name it this." Or I would talk to my wife and she's like, "You should name it that." And I said, ah, nah, I don't think. And then like I would never do good. And I don't know if it was because of the name, but then I started using the name suggested and then I started doing better. So I'm like, all right, that's a sign from the universe.
Sometimes it's like that, family
Yeah.
members and friends can have little tidbits that they just add in, and sometimes they don't even know it.
Yeah. Well, that's I wanted to like bring back a little bit. So at that music competition, you said maybe I'm not that good at music. However, I was reading through some of your website there. You did open up a situation where you were helping other artists learn how to market and learn how to um, produce music. Can you run me through? You don't have to go the whole way back to before that what put you in that situation unless you want to, but I'd like to hear more about that teacher philosophy that you have, because that seems to be oozing out of you in each level of your life that you've been leveling up to.
Yeah, I really enjoy that part of life. So, I'm 31. I started making music when I was 13. I started by, admittedly, I stole lyrics from this local rapper called Acrobatic. I didn't think anybody would know who he was because he was local. He was really dope. And I would steal his lyrics and use them in MSN chat room battles. And then somebody caught me.
Oh,
So it forced me to actually write. And I had only wrote poetry at that point. I had only bit Acrobatic the whole time I was doing text battles. So I started actually doing it, and I won my first text battle, and I got accused of cheating again and plagiarizing. And I said, check it out. Like, that was actually me. Like, that was actually me. So
mm-hmm.
then, in order to prove it more, I started introducing the idea of like voice battles instead. And we started doing that as well. By the time I was 15, I built like an online record label, I guess that's what we called it. I had people from Wyoming, California, Chicago, and Florida on my label. We were all around the same age. It was called Addicts Records because we were all from like families. I come from a family of addicts. I fortunately have never really had any problems. Drank a little too much around my early 20s, but I think some of us
All of
partied
us
a little
early
too much.
20s did.
Yeah, it's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to not do that. But it was kind of like a play how music was our addiction. Um, from then, I just immediately started taking people under my wing. This kid, Mike, that was a year older than me, we would just be like freestyling in one of our studies. And he's like, dude, you're like really dope, bro. I'm like, yeah. And there was like, at the time, okay, so I grew up in this place called New Bedford, Massachusetts. If you're from there, they call it New Bedford. I hate it. It's the worst. So
The New
it's
England accent really gets
right.
rid of some syllables.
It really does. But it's funny because I worked at Honda and they would say Honda. It doesn't make any sense. Um, so yeah, I come from New Bedford. It's a really mixing pot. I was raised in native culture, so I was raised in a mixing pot. I never really even knew what racism was until I moved to Plymouth, Massachusetts, and it was a very much white collar, preppy town. Everybody was like that in the school except me. I was wearing clothes from thrift stores because my family was poor, and I didn't fit in
Uh-huh.
immediately. So when people found out I started rapping, they immediately started dissing me, and I immediately started going back at them. And there was pretty much a war throughout high school with me and all the.
Oh, you just cut out there. Still not good.
There we
There
go.
it is.
All right. Sorry. My
That's okay.
lav mic must have cut out. I need to replace the batteries. The place I got my lav mic from, they gave me like the cheapest batteries on earth. It's all
Yeah, I
good.
heard that in your video, that YouTube video you made. But
It
anyhow,
it's it yeah, it was so frustrating. I tried to fix that audio.
it's all good.
Where was I going though? Oh, I was talking
You were
about
rap
yeah.
battling, and then you a battle through high school.
Yeah, this is all funny because I've never really talked about this too publicly. It's funny to me. Um, but yeah, I had a lot of beef through high school, but it kind of drove me to, be better at music
Of
than
course.
them. And I started getting online buzz. We were on a site called SoundClick. It was like a website
Okay.
where a bunch of independent artists would upload beats and songs from all over the world, and we were doing pretty well on there. My best friend Casher, we're still best friends. We were making music together, and yeah, all throughout coming up, I was opening up for artists like Dizzy Wright and Hobson and Waka Flocka, Cassidy, Afro Man. I've opened up for a slew of artists. I've definitely done over 100 shows, and I would always just bring artists with me. I would be like, okay, I think you're talented. Like, come do this show. You're gonna have to sell some tickets, just like I'm gonna have to sell some tickets. Neither one of us are gonna make any fucking money, but it'll give you some exposure.
Of
And it did.
course.
Like some people were able to make a little buzz of it. One of my really good friends, Matt, who was, probably one of the most serious people I mentored. He's so talented, and whenever he wants, like at will, it seems he's able to put music out.
So early on, you were already like bringing your buddies along with you, and like taking. I hate. I don't want to say I hate, but like taking them under your wing. It seems like your mother goose or something. But like honestly, that's that's so powerful to do to people. Like just the fact that you believed in them enough to take them to that show was probably, I bet if you talk to them now, one of the most impactful moments early on in their whatever career they're in now, just to get exposure and to have those memories and all of that. Do you guys talk about that now, and sort of what that was like back in the heyday type of stuff, and what, I don't know, like,
Yeah, so it's funny because we actually all had a lot of issues together, um, stemming from how much attention we got. Essentially, egos get in the way when you don't check egos early. So essentially, Matt and I, probably one of my most talented friends that I've mentored. Um, we butt heads because another dude that was like kind of big in our local area kind of got into his head and my head at the same time, kind of like divide and conquer type of thing.
Uh,
So yeah, we let it really divide our camp for a while, and it was just egos. Our manager was just like so stressed. Our buddy ended up managing us because we were just getting so much shit coming at us. Um, he was constantly just like, come on, guys, get makeup, kiss and makeup. You guys love each other. And we're both just stubborn assholes,
mhm.
with our ego fully on tilt.
But you know what? Like you see that constantly. You
Yes,
do see
especially
that
music.
constantly in the music world. I see it in the jujitsu world. Like I see it everywhere in the business world, wherever. Like if you're not if you're not in a situation where like you can be humble and really know that your come up crew is the crew that sort of made you, like you're
Hmm.
not, I don't want to say like people wouldn't be where they're at without the come up crew, but like honestly, you have to remember those people and just treat them like gold because they were there as
Yep.
you were struggling through stuff or early on, like you guys were there with each other. And but you guys were young. My God, you were so young. Like to be that to have that humility at in your teens, it doesn't happen till like mid 20s, I swear to God. But like
Well,
some
even
people,
then, that's when we had a lot of beef, was when I was 23,
oh,
24,
okay.
you know. So, and honestly, one of the biggest things that kind of really sparked the divide, I had a crazy stage dive fail. So
Oh
it
God.
went viral. Fail Army ended up picking it up. It's pretty epic. But so I told everybody before the show. We sold like 100 tickets to open for Cassidy, and I was like, I'm stage diving tonight. Like this is the biggest show we've done. I'm stage diving. I'm stage diving. And the whole time our set was pumped up. Everybody loved our set. And I said 3 times throughout our set, get ready, guys. I'm gonna stage dive. But I don't think in the moment of like songs and everything, you're not really paying attention as much as you
Yeah.
think you are. And at the end of our last song, I have a line that says, "Because I have nothing to lose." And I like saw the crowd forming, right? And Cassidy was right after us. We were the main opener. So all the women made their way towards the front. And I
Uh,
saw that there was like 4 rows of women and then my boys right behind them. And I'm like, whew, can I jump that far? All right, let's try it. So you see me in the video. I back up to where the DJ is, and I look. I take off my glasses because I had laser surgery, but I had glasses back then. I take off my glasses because I'm like, all right, just in case. And I hit it. And this whole time I'm like rapping into a mic while I'm thinking this and pulling my glasses off, looking around. I'm like, this isn't gonna be good. And I'm just like, all right, guys. I'm trying to tell people like hands up. And my boys did too, and people just kind of like moved when I jumped into the crowd. They're like, "What the fuck is he doing?" And just kind of moved, and I just hit the ground. Luckily, my one of my homies, Jarek, he caught my head. He caught the
okay.
literally at the last second. I felt his head like his hand cradle my head, and his hand like smashed off the ground. So
Thank
his
God.
hand took the impact of that because that was probably my only danger. Like I had a
Yeah.
sore back and a sore ego, but that was that was about it.
That is a great story. Yeah, you don't want to cancel the show because the opening act just stage dive and and is concussed in the front row.
Yeah, you can't move. Yeah,
Yeah.
break my neck or something.
So how did that end up causing the divide with you guys?
There was already a lot of tension, and after that I was just the laughing stock of everybody,
Ah,
everybody locally. It was just a thing, like every time that people didn't like me and they'd be on stage, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna stage dive, get ready," like, in like when it would be small shows with like 20 people and shit.
brutal.
Yeah, it was a wild time in my life, very humbling,
So
and
so you got sort of dissed in the local scene, what happened then thereafter? Did you move? What was the
so
next step?
weirdly enough, at the time, I my son's mother was pregnant. we were trying to figure things out. It was like one of those hookup scenarios where we were trying to be together. Like we hooked up, she got pregnant, and we were like, oh, we might as well try to be together. Like for our kid.
Of course.
And we were actually planned on moving to Oklahoma, and that was another piece of the tension with my partner and I, because it was my best friend Casher. He had moved out there. He had a house that we could move into for super cheap. We were going to save up some money for like 2 years and move back. Kind of a really stupid idea, like with a kid, like, and not having your family around. I was 23, I'm just like, I was just trying to not be my dad, not make $20,000 a year and struggle my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we were already planning on moving. So I moved and then moved right back because my son's mom ended up not moving out, and some stuff happened there. We ended up, she, in all transparency, yeah, never mind. I don't want to say that live. Actually, I don't
No,
want
you're
to
good.
bash
You're
her,
good.
but
Skip over it.
but
So
yeah,
did you
we
move
had some
without them?
issues. I moved by myself to set up, and basically got left out there and found my way back before he was born.
Okay.
So I moved back to Mass. I moved to Oklahoma in April, and I moved back to Mass in June. So it wasn't very long at all.
No.
And as soon as I came back, I didn't perform anymore, but I hosted a lot. I would do like hosting gigs, because the guy Rich Collier that I would sell tickets for, he was he was just like, come on, do shows, man. Like, people still want to see you. I'm like, like, I'm not really feeling the music thing anymore, bro.
Yeah.
And yeah, from
Dude,
there
that's
just
a
kind of
lot. That's a
declined.
lot of things that like compounded in your life in such a short period of time, that you were like super up here and then all of a sudden you come down. And it's impressive to me because you do have addiction in your family, and just based on what you've shared with me, to not go down that road.
Mm.
How did you deal with it?
It was definitely tough. Um, to basically lose my identity. It
Yeah.
was, I have it tatted on me. Like, this tattoo is a microphone and has my artist name ATAC on it. So it was like something I was super dedicated to. We were talking about tours. Um, the funny thing is that wasn't really even like the last time I had buzz. It was like every time that I decided to make a little comeback, we got buzz, right? So in 2015, after the music competition, I kind of was like, I don't want to do music. I ended up moving to Colorado with my now fiance, because Casher was living out there now. And I was just like, all right, let's go live out there. And he kind of suckered me into making music again.
Ah.
Yes, he always has a way to fucking do that. So when I started making music, this kid that I had once mentored, and he really was like a super fan. I had all the screenshots to prove it. He started making diss tracks about me, and because I think he thought that because of the stage dive, and like me and my partner weren't together anymore, like it was like he could just come after me and he would get attention from it, and he did. But he didn't know that I was secretly working on an album, so I was in writing mode, and I dissed him back to back, like, because Drake did it. It was like right around that time, and I
Mhm.
I, I threw out a diss one night, and my fiance was like, "I've never seen you like angry like that." I was like, "He said my son's name in his fucking song.
Ooh.
I will murder him. You don't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're crossing a line. Don't say anything about my damn kid." And I basically said that I fathered him. I was his dad, like all that kind of shit in the song. And then he didn't respond. So in the morning, I woke up still angry and put out another one, and everybody just kind of shut up after that. But
Yeah.
more importantly, my buddy Casher got involved because that kid D Noda said something about him in a song. He put out a little like 8 bar diss verse a cappella to this kid, and he was wearing his security guard uniform, and it fucking blew up. Viral, rapping cop, this is kid.
Yeah.
People were hate. It was like right around, I think, like the right after like the Mike Brown stuff happened, and people were like, "This is why people don't like cops. You're talking about
Oh.
beating people up, blah blah blah." It blew up, like to the
Yeah.
point where they were offering tours. Like, come on tour, we're gonna do, like, you're gonna be the rapping cop and blah blah blah. And I was gonna support him on that tour too. And he's just like, I don't want that to be my identity. I don't want to be the
Wow.
rapping cop. And we never did it. It just
What
never
an
happened.
what a to turn that down
Yeah.
because of the marketing behind it. He
Yep.
didn't like it. You
Yeah, he
guys
has a
didn't like
family
it.
and everything too.
Yeah.
I was pushing him towards it. I said, "Listen, this is easy to flip out of because you're not a cop.
Yeah.
Eventually, people will realize you're just a security guard." And I think it was Fail Army that picked it up. They just they just had the perfect buzzword title to make it blow up because you look like a cop if you're not paying
Yeah.
attention. And there was even if you looked in the comments because it was on World Star, we woke up and it was fucking on World Star, and I'm like, what the fuck? And
Bro.
and there's people commenting like, this is RPD security in Denver, like this isn't a cop, and we were like, yeah, we never claimed to be a cop. People did
Yeah,
that
you
for
guys all
us.
said we were cop.
Yeah. So yeah, he was, yeah, and he's honestly Casher. If you guys are watching this, check out his music because he's been making music steady, and he's no offense to all the rest of you guys because I have a lot of really talented friends, but my most talented friend, artist.
Is he on Spotify as Casher?
Yes, he is. You leaving,
Okay.
baby? Come here, give me a huggy. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Oh, big huggy. Wow. Yeah, what am I doing? That does on a lot of shows lately.
She's like, "Is this your new job?"
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the computer and stuff a lot, but bye,
Yeah.
baby, I love you. It's it's definitely been a lot the last week and a half or so, and it's gonna be even more wild because people are gonna think I like died or something because I pick up my son every other weekend, and I just so happen to win the V friend on the Monday after I had him, so I've had all this time, but on
Yeah.
weekends I have him.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
MIA.
for
I
sure.
cut off at 4 p.m. and at nighttime when he goes to bed, I'll check my stuff, but
Hmm.
I try to be very present because I don't get a lot of time.
Absolutely. So I'm hearing a couple recurring themes with you. Is like you're not not used to the spotlight and these big surges in your life.
Yeah, I've just usually let ego take over, and just soak up the fact, I guess, that it's all about me. And I think that comes from just like trauma in my childhood and like having to basically raise myself and then also kind of raise my little sister.
Hmm.
So it comes from a lot of that. Um, but I just always dealt with things the wrong way and attention the wrong way. And now it's all good. Like my partner that was making music, we're making music again. We actually have a show every Sunday that we do called High Talks, where we literally just get high and bullshit for an hour and a half, and it's like live commenting. People love it.
Yeah.
It just was like we would be doing that. We would just FaceTime each other during shutdown once we like made up and everything. Um, and we would just smoke. It was like he lives in Connecticut now. I live in Mass still. So we would just like smoke and talk. And we were like, dude, like we would crack each other up and we'd be watching videos together and doing all this stuff. And we're
Uh-huh.
like, we should just turn this into a show. Let's see if people like it. Like more
Hmm.
of our friends will come hang out. And then we did it. Did pretty well. We get like 300 views a week on Facebook. And then um, we started getting banned a lot by Facebook every time we play like certain YouTube videos or music. Even our own music sometimes gets flagged. It's like, dude, I could show you that I own this shit. I could
Yeah.
show you my buddy made the beat in front of me. Like, um, but I forgot where I was going with that. ADD.
You were on the nine. You did the show. You guys were having success. You had about 300 views on
Oh
Facebook.
yeah.
Then
Oh,
they
we're on Reddit now too.
okay.
So the Reddit live community is really awesome. And once we really work out the kinks of our show and get guests on there and stuff, it's gonna be really awesome, I think, because Reddit is just, I feel like it's where the internet starts, right?
Yeah, that's sort of the OG community base.
Yeah, it's like where all the memes start. Like if you've seen a meme, it's been on Reddit for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, you're already late to the game.
So it's been really cool. It's definitely harder to build up on Reddit because you have to comment and get upvotes, and so you have to not just comment to comment. You have to have substance to it and make people laugh or think or be
Yeah.
relatable. Luckily, uh, I posted a video of John LaJoy. I don't know if you remember him from back in the day. he
I don't.
he had all of his music was extremely inappropriate. It was comedy rap, but he was like, "Show me your genitals, your genitals." You never, I don't know if you've ever heard that song. It went his music's extremely viral, but my friend Matt and I were talking about it, and I just posted about it, and it got like, I don't know, 50 upvotes. So it was like half of what we needed to get to go live. So I was like, hold on, I'm just gonna push. I got to get to 140 comment karma, which means like you have to get 140 upvotes on your comments.
Hmm.
And I'm at 50. Let's just push. And I went push, 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 push. In like 2 days, I had it. I was just commenting on everything. I'd go on MMA, I'd go on stoner stuff, I'd go on entrepreneur stuff, stocks, crypto, and I'm just making just comments. I'm like, what's something good I could say here that's like valuable to somebody, or like will be a thought that they didn't have. Okay, upvotes, upvotes, upvotes. And then we started going live there, and that's just building more and more and more every week, way more than Facebook, it seems. And even last night when I was on Clubhouse, somebody was asking about how do you start a podcast, and I'm like, dude, get on Reddit, like get
Yeah.
on Reddit.
Yeah. I might take your advice and check that out. I have it. I haven't used it to its full potential. That is for sure.
Gary
Um,
talks about it a lot too.
hmm Yeah, I've been doing a lot of the Discord rooms, getting
Mm,
into there and just sort of adding to conversation and lurking and just reading and just doing some homework,
yep.
doing homework on a bunch of different things, and that's been super helpful for me. But so you're mid 20s, getting into late 20s. You're 31 now, so there's this gap here
Yep.
that I want to explore where you transitioned into the cannabis business.
Yeah. So I've always been kind of a stoner. It's always just kind of been who I am.
Hmm.
Um, it really helps my anxiety. It helps my social anxiety, and it helps me, just sleep and everything. Overall, just makes me feel better. In 2012, my dad is a head grower of a local nursery. He has been since I was 5 years old, 4 years old. Um, his business that he was working for was starting to fail, and they were talking about selling. And I was like, Dad, you need to talk to him about cannabis. It's the next wave. This thing is gonna explode. If he gets on this now, you won't have to worry about having a job ever again, and you're gonna get a big raise. And he's just too timid. He just would not go to his boss and bring it up to him, right? So 2015 rolls around. I meet my now fiance
Hmm.
through a group of friends, and I started just getting this itch, like I'm not happy, like working for somebody. I don't know if music is gonna do it. Like at that point, I was in like before the stage dive, I really was like, this is it. I'm all in. And then before LA, I was, I really still thought like, okay, it only takes one song. That's all it takes. So, like I said, I was in this weird transition period. So I started making beard balms and beard oils and deodorants and soaps, and all my friends were like, "What the fuck are you doing? You
Uh-huh.
are a rapper. You are, like, what are you doing with your life right now? Why are you making beauty products?" And I was like, "Well, I was just researching into deodorant and skincare products, and they're basically trash." And I honestly couldn't grow a beard before then. Like it's trimmed down now, but I grow a beard, and I think it's because of all the good oils I used in the beginning.
Hmm.
I never really knew what I was doing with that. It it would surge during the holidays. I'd make like a couple $1,000, um, and then die off because it was like beauty products.
Yeah.
And around, I was still working a job. I was working at AT&T at the time. I started as a rep. I moved to be like a regional manager that taught people how to sell to businesses
Hmm.
and how
And
to identify.
this is in Colorado.
This is in Colorado. Yep. When I moved out there, that's when it changed. Like I had an AT&T up the street. Um, well, I moved to Colorado with a job lined up, right? but you had to pass a drug test. And I stopped smoking for it was like 2 months by the time we got out there, and I still was popping hot on piss tests. And so I'm just like, okay, I'm running out of money. I got to go get a job in the meantime. Let me just go see. And on the street I lived at, it was like I had worked at AT&T prior, so it was like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, uh, Virgin, like all these different fucking cell phone places.
Uh-huh.
And so I dropped off my resume, got a call from AT&T the day I dropped it off, started working there, got promoted in 8 months to a regional position,
Wow.
and just crushing it. But I missed my son. Like I was able to see my son, and then I wasn't. That's why I moved out to Colorado to kind of
Mm-hmm.
just change my life.
Yeah.
Um, I had money now. So I went to court and I fought for right to see him. And I was like, oh shit. So this is starting to get moving now. I should start exploring moving back home so I could actually see him. Like I'm not gonna
No
fly
doubt.
every other weekend to Boston, and it's too much money and too much. Where am I gonna where is he gonna stay? And it's just too much. So I ended up getting a job, exactly the same job at T-Mobile. They literally like created a position for me to basically implement what AT&T did into their stores. And
Oh.
yeah, so it's a little bit of a raise. It was back home. We moved back with the in-laws, so I didn't have a rent bill. We were gonna buy a house. Um, by February of 2017, right? We moved back in September 2016. By February 2017, I was growing weed with my friend, who was my manager for music. We were growing
Uh-huh.
weed together, just like 4 plants in his garage. And I was working for T-Mobile, and we had hit the yearly goal at the end of February for new business add-ons, right? I asked for a
Two
raise.
months?
2 months. 2 months.
You hit a
It-
yearly goal?
Yep, I had 29 stores
My
that I was looking
guy.
over, and literally all I did was go to these stores and talk to the reps like they're humans. And I realized like half of them were trying to start their own business or were interested in it, and I would just tell them what I'm doing with like growing on the side. And I worked with a lot of businesses because that's what I did. I would these stores would get leads for me. I'd go meet with the customer and close down 25, 30 lines or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so people loved me because I made them more. I was the money maker, right? Like when I came in the store, I was gonna pull something for you to get another bonus, basically. It was easy to get people bought in. And when people were thinking about it, it just happened super easy. And I asked for a raise, not a big one. I just wanted to be making six figures.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure at that point we were like on pace to make over $1 million just in business add-ons. And that's only what I know about. They don't show us the back end.
Uh-huh.
So they told me that was inappropriate. I had only been there for 5 months and I should wait for at least a year. And I said, how many people have made you this much money in 5 months? And they didn't like that. So I met for lunch with my supervisor again about a week and a half after that, and I said, "Hey, this lunch is great and all, man, but how about that raise?" And he's just like, "Adam, I told you it's really inappropriate. Like you're gonna start ruffling some feathers that you don't want to ruffle." And I'm like, "Listen, I am putting all sorts of miles on my car. I'm driving to 29 stores. I'm staying overnight. I'm missing time away from my family. Like, I'm putting a lot into this, man. I think I deserve like a little bit of a bump. And that's going to make me more motivated because why am I motivated? I'm already missing out on bonuses because we hit the yearly goal, like,
Yeah.
so, um, he just told me it was inappropriate. I asked one more time and I got a phone call a day later telling me this was like March 16th, 2017, 2 days before my birthday. They tell me that they're getting rid of my position. They're not getting rid of me, but they are getting rid of my position.
Well, because you've already done what they needed you to.
Exactly. So I said, what? Excuse me? That doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, exactly what you said. Like we've kind of hit like you said, we hit the yearly goal. And I think we have enough you've created enough infrastructure for us to not need that position anymore. It's like these fucking assholes.
Right.
Um
Like that is the worst.
oh, it gets worse.
Oh God.
So they said we are gonna offer you a comparable position So they wait until like March 27th. Mind you, my position is ending March 31st. They tell me it's ending. So I've 4 days. I drive to Connecticut to meet with the VP of the company and have an interview. And he's talking to me like he has no clue who I am. Like I'm a brand new person off the street. He's interviewing me like that. Mind you, I had met him. The store I had turned stores of his around like crazy. So they interviewed me. I drove 2.5 hours for it. It was a 10-minute interview. That's how short it was. And then I drove 2.5 hours home. They call me on March 30th and they offer me a whopping key holder position, which is a rep with $1 an hour more because they hold a key to open the store. And I said, okay, what's the bonus structure for a rep? Because as a rep, I killed it at AT&T. I made like $60,000 as a rep.
Uh-huh.
And they gave me the bonus structure. I looked at the max of what I could get, and it was like half of what I was making because they didn't pay their reps well at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Jeez.
and I just was like, wow, all right. I didn't know what to do. March 31st, I'm going into my stores and I'm giving my list of leads to the managers. Hey, here's all of what I'm working on. Here's it's like marked with what's hot, cold, what's in the pipeline, like everything that's it's all set here. Like get some deals done, get paid. And I went to I think 2 stores that day. I went to the second store, I'm giving him my list, and I'm like, he's like, wait, so what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna leave. I don't know what I'm gonna do, dude. I don't want to start over and be a rep. Like, that's gonna suck. And he's like, well, wait. So wait. They're not firing you, right? Because they're still allowing you to work here. I said, no, no, no. I'm still good. He said, okay. And you're not quitting, right? You didn't say you're quitting yet. I was like, no, I just told them I'll think about it. He said, so aren't you eligible for unemployment? I said, hold on. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, Dwayne, am I eligible for unemployment if I don't take your offer? Since you're not firing me, you're just laying me off. And he says,
Oh,
hold on, click. Calls me back like an hour later. Yeah. I talked to our accounting or whatever. They said you are eligible for it.
uh-huh.
Huh. How much am I gonna get? And he like kind of gave me the range. And I'm like, huh, that's more than I'd make as a rep. Sweet, man. Thanks for the offer, but I'm not taking that. I'll definitely take my unemployment.
Yeah.
I took my unemployment money and just sunk it all into growing weed and learning how to grow weed and being a part of the cannabis community. Um, after that, after I lost my job, it was like another fucking identity crisis. It's like
Yeah,
it's
you
like
had
oh my
a rebranding again.
again, dude, like it never seemed to stop. And like I was really starting to be the cell phone guy for people. Like all my family really looked at me that way.
Mm-hmm.
All my friends would come to me. I had business clients at that point, and it was wild. And I didn't want to do that anymore.
So whenever you made that transition into the weed world, what did that look like? What were your first steps to doing it legally, getting licensed, all of that? I mean, did
So,
was that the
tip
initial?
typically, if you join a local cannabis community, typically you will see or hear that most people start off in what we'll call the gray market. It's it's not quite the black market because like with what most people are doing, they won't go to prison for. They might get a slap on the wrist or a fine or go to jail for 30 days or something. But we call it the gray market, and most of us started off that way. So I was growing 4 plants for myself and my friend. They weren't big enough to even sell to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then you grow and you give it to people and they really like it and then they want to buy it from you and they're your close friends, so you're like, okay, I guess you can give me a donation, like
Yeah.
that works, and that's what we call the gray market, right? So I quickly realized a major problem in the cannabis market, which was cartridges. So it was easy to spot the problem because it was all over the news, except the news wasn't really telling the full story. Surprise, surprise. Um, they were saying that it was because of PEG. People were cutting cartridges with PEG. That's what was making people sick, which they were kind of right. But at the same token, everything they were mixing it with, the flavorings, all that bullshit was so bad for you. So I came out with a cartridge that was a THC concentrate that was lab tested for safety, and then a terpene, which is like the flavor and the smell of a cannabis plant, just concentrated in a bottle, organic terpenes that are cannabis derived. And I would combine them in a cartridge. I would get like a really nice cartridge that was like, it wasn't like the 30 cents ones that you could get for, you can get 1,000 for $30 or whatever it is, or
Yeah.
$300. It was really nice ones, and people loved my cartridges. The weed company I was delivering for, they literally ordered like hundreds of my cartridges to deliver all over. Um, I wanted to get into legal weed until I realized it was like $5 to $10 million realistically to have a dispensary. And at the time, my old business partner, I was helping him on his farm for free. He had a vegetable farm. He needed some help. I'm a vegetarian and I like vegetables, and he was giving me free vegetables to work for him. It was a perfect thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, I started teaching him more about selling it, and like I would go to farmers markets with him and all that kind of stuff, and just really taught him the importance of selling. When we kind of talked, we had a podcast at the time together, and we talked about I talked to him actually about having a hemp farm instead of just a vegetable farm. And that's what we did because it was cheaper. It was $600 for a license, $3,000 I think we spent on our first season of growing, and we were off to the races. Um,
Oh.
we grew 130 plants our first year on a tenth of an acre. Um, we ended up on Fox News.
Okay.
Um, we basically through this organization called NOFA, New England Organic Farming Association. This gentleman named Martin Dagoberto, he called me up and he said, "Hey, Fox 25 is looking for a hemp farmer to interview. We don't really have anybody else available. Your plants are looking great from the pictures I see. You guys want it?" It's I think it was 11 o'clock a.m., maybe 10:30 a.m. I said, "Yep." He said, "Cool, they'll be there at noon." I said, "What?"
Oh,
Like we were
Jesus.
literally on our way to a meeting to meet with somebody. So we like
Uh-huh.
literally stopped at the meeting, had a cup of coffee, and left. Like we told him, like, "Hey, Fox 25 is at our fucking farm."
Yeah.
Um, and we get interviewed. We ended up on Wicked Local, Patriot Ledger, our local newspaper front page, and it just took off from there because prior to that, like I said, I got into the cannabis community and I
Mm-hmm.
showed up with my camera. I actually, not even with my camera, actually, my best friend Casher, I borrowed his camera. I said, "Bro, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I need a camera. You have a camera. Can I borrow it?" And he just
Uh-huh.
let me borrow it for like literally 6 months to like,
Wow.
I would go to cannabis conventions and I would film different companies and I would use what was left over from my music audience and just kind of pump it out using Facebook ads. I was getting 10,000 views on some of these videos and kind of teaching the cannabis. They were mostly CBD businesses. Some were like cannabis, but teaching them more about online. Like there was at the time when I started doing that, I just showed up with a camera and started following people around and interviewing people, and people that were higher up in the industry, like Masscan, they're the biggest organization around here. They noticed, so they offered me work. I worked a whole 3-day weekend for free,
Mm-hmm.
edited it all for free, and they gave me like honorary board membership, like I,
That's
just
amazing.
because of that. Yeah. At my first meeting, you're supposed to go to so many meetings in order to get that. Um, I did all this free work. It leads up to Fox 25, and things are just like taking off. Um, my partner had the idea to look into kiosks, small kiosks.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "No way, bro, way too expensive." Um, he and I just kind of we looked into it, and it was wicked expensive, but it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be. So we did it. in December 2019, we went into the Natick Mall around here, and we opened up a kiosk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me, my wife likes to say I'm too much of a dreamer sometimes. Our first official day at the mall was Black Friday at the busiest mall in Massachusetts, and I was hype. I come from retail. I've worked 10 Black Fridays in my life, and I was hype. I had my team ready. We were all ready. I'm like, dude, we're gonna do like $8,000 in sales today. It's gonna be crazy. And it was shoulder to shoulder in there, and nobody even paid us any mind. It was like
Wow.
we were in their way. We were brand new. We were just like not even a thought. They just wanted to get the Foot Locker and get those sneakers and get out because it was so busy in there. And needless to say, we still did $20,000 in our first month. And then it just clicked. We opened another mall location the month after,
Mm-hmm.
January 2020. And then, we know what happened in 2020.
Right.
Everything we were making about 25 to $40,000 a month in sales between like December and March, December 2019, March 2020. And then the pandemic happened.
So you had to quickly pivot then.
Yes. And it
Did you
wasn't easy
have?
because a lot of my eggs were in the retail basket. And not only were the retail locations not open, one of the malls, I won't say which one, but one of the malls was demanding that we pay while we're not even there. And I was just like, do you realize that we are a small business who's reinvesting all of our money back into building our business and paying our employees and hiring more people to build this up
Yeah.
and expanding the mall idea? Like, we were literally in February, I had 6 deals on my desk for malls, different malls across Massachusetts, and we were going to branch into Albany, New York as well. And luckily, I didn't sign those.
Yeah.
Um, and retail is just starting to make a comeback.
Yep.
So we last year we were talking about merging into a company that appeared bigger than ours. They had millions of dollars worth of equipment, thousands and thousands of plants in the grow house, tens of thousands of plants in the fields. It looked really impressive. And we almost did it. And a couple red flags popped up for me. And I realized that I never asked them to see the books in this whole process because I was so excited. My business was not doing well. We were about to get brought into this business and merged in. We were still going to keep our branding and it was going to help our branding. Um, and then I looked at the books and I had some questions and I didn't really get the answers I was looking for
Mm-hmm.
for those questions. So
Yeah.
I told my partner, I'm not doing it. He said, yes, we are. I said, well, I don't know if you know how a 50-50 partnership works, but no, we're not. Because if one person says no, it's a no. And he's like, well, our business advisor makes the decision. I'm like, well, no, the paperwork doesn't say that. So he wanted to do it. And I was like, just go. Like, this is the end of our partnership. Like, it's cool, man. Like, it's been great. Like, let's just end the partnership. And he said, I'll give you my half for $250,000. And I said, fuck yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And no. And then I just started like, what do I even do? I'm like, okay, how many times is this gonna happen?
Yeah.
How many times am I gonna get all the way up here and just about to break through the ceiling of like, we were talking about this last night of like being at like a 40 to 50 on a scale of 100, and you're about to break through that 50 ceiling and skyrocket to 100, and it's ending. So the first thing I did, I hired all of my employees, all of them. I trained all of them. They come to me with all of their questions. I have mostly women employees. If they have I've had times where they've had really bad menstrual cramps and I've sent them home and went to go work for them. Like
Yeah.
I am dedicated to my people. So much so that one of my first full-time employees, I mentored her enough to start her own CBD business, and she left and
Fantastic.
started her own CBD business. And she just calls me, I'm answering. And hey, what do you need? Like, that's just always how it is with her. So the first thing I did was talk to my employees. Hey guys, I know I said because we literally went to this place with all of our employees. I popped the cork a little bit too soon. I said, hey, we're merging into all this. We brought all of our 10 employees there and they're all excited. So I had to go to them and say, hey guys, we are not going to do this merger.
Wow.
And I don't know what you guys want to do. I don't want to make you choose sides. And all of them were like, there's no side to choose. We're going with you. Um,
Dude, that had to feel great.
it did. It was a huge boost because I was feeling really down. I was like,
Of
I,
course.
I feel like I let them down, like it's like my business is failing, but now they're gonna lose their job. Fuck.
Yep.
Fuck. And I was like, I went through a little depression there for a bit, definitely, because it was just like, dude, like how many times and like disappointing people, and now I'm paying people and they're gonna lose jobs. Like it's so much more severe this time. And when I knew they were coming with me, it just like gave me all the power I needed. And luckily, our lease with my partner and I's company at the mall was ending at the end of that month. So I have a really good relationship with the leasing manager because, again, I was the contact for it. I would always talk to him about any issues that arose, and I was, again, very protective of my employees. There was creepy dudes that would be there, and I'd be like, "Hey, can you at least have a security guard like going around once in a while? Like I have all women employees, dude. Like, can you have somebody walk them out if they feel like they're creeped out by somebody?" Like, he said,
Dude,
"Yeah,
hats
totally,
off. Hats off to you,
totally."
man. Yeah.
I have a sister and a daughter, like
Yeah,
I'm super
respect.
protective and like yeah. So I have a really good relationship with him. I said, "Hey, can we do a month to month lease for the next couple months?" It was literally October, like we're going into Christmas, and I'm asking for a lot here. And I said, "And can you also make sure that it says my name on the lease, not the company name?" And he said, "Let me look into it." He said, "Hey, did you know that I didn't know this, but whoever did like finalize your lease, they put it under Adam Souza, DBA business name."
Ah, yeah.
So he's like, "All we have to do is change the DBA."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh, let's do it then." So I immediately that month I sold out of my products. I paid back the business what the products cost, and then I took the profits, I invested it into my own thing and rebranded as Urban Extracts, which was supposed to be the name of the CBD company to begin with, right? It was my company for cartridges. I started making CBD, and when I was with my partner, I was like, let's just do Urban Extracts.
Yeah.
He said, "No, I don't know how comfortable I feel with that. That's like your baby. I don't want to," like, I was like, "Yeah, you'd be 50-50 owner. It's okay." And he just like, "Nah." He had a business, and I had Urban Extracts, so we combined it and came up with Urban Acres. And that worked out in my favor because I had all my logos done, all my branding, a designer, and a full product line that I already created. So I just rebranded everything that I already did, added a couple new products, and lowered my prices by 20% because I wanted to do that anyways.
Yeah.
And then relaunched. And luckily, I was in the holiday months, so it gave me the cash infusion to be able to, have money in the bank to make sure I'm paying my employees because like January and February, dude, like dead,
Yeah.
dead, horrible, horrible. Were like the worst months we've had. And then March was amazing. April was great. And then May last month was, not so much because we had my I was hiring and my
Yeah.
only employee got COVID.
Oof.
So she was gone for 2 weeks. I had so much shit planned. Like my wife's 30th birthday was like the first weekend of May. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to close down the first weekend of May. I closed down 10 days in May because of the COVID thing and I wasn't
Right.
available. Like it was just crazy. Luckily now I have somebody hired. This month is going fantastic. We're already like we're more than halfway past what we did in March, like, and it's only 3 days in, 4 days in.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic news.
yeah, it's turning around, man. And even more exciting with the hemp, environmental side, like we were talking about the other day, is it's just
Yeah,
I,
let's dive into that part because you do have I mean, I don't want to put the cat out of the bag. You tell the story about where you're headed with this.
yeah. So um through studying cannabis, you really realize that this plant is just crazy. Like, it's not only does it have all these medicinal benefits in not only like the buds that have the cannabinoids like THC and CBD in them, but you can literally juice the leaves. It has a ton of different amino acids and healthy fats and chlorophylls and things like that. Amazing for you. The stalks, you can grind up the stalks and make them into hemp clothing, hemp concrete, hemp insulation, hemp wood. There's so many things you could do with it, and it just so happens to be the best plant at cleaning up soil from heavy metals, pesticides. They used it in Chernobyl to clean up the soil.
Oh
They've
wow.
used it on formaldehyde. They've used it on coal plants, even plutonium, and PFAS. Which, if people don't know, PFAS is like from the plastics and the non-sticks and the firefighting foam and all this type of stuff, leaches into the water, ends up in our bloodstream. Studies show that 98% of Americans have PFAS in their bloodstream currently, um, and it's a huge problem. So we are working on a huge environmental project, with, we're trying to pitch it to landfills, and we
I
have a
was
land.
That's exactly where my head went.
Yeah.
Landfills and water filtration systems.
Yep. And the thing about the water filtration is, like, the once you grind up that hemp stock, and actually the whole plant, when you dry out the plant and you grind it all up, that's hemp proteins. Hemp proteins, they just suck in all this bad stuff when you put it into water. So I think it can be a great filter medium too. Like, we're working with some different water filtration companies to really figure this out.
Hmm.
Like, what if the combination of like hemp protein and activated carbon can really just like strip everything and then clean it, and we can have fresh clean water that
Yeah,
easy.
and you're adding in some some like nutrition too, wouldn't you be?
Yeah, so the way I grow, I use organic practices. So I use compost tea, which is all organic. It's basically just broken down compost in a liquid form. So it has tons of nutrients in it. Like, I think it has, you look at things on an NPK rating, on nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and it has like a 325 rating, which I think you want to be at like 676 for your total. So it makes up a lot of it. The other thing I use is this stuff called biofish. It's dried fish emulsion with kelp, and you just sprinkle it on your soil, kind of scratch it in, water it in with the compost tea to help break it down.
Hmm.
And then I use this stuff called fish shit. It's this local company. They're out of Massachusetts. They are one of the best beneficial bacteria you could use for any growing. Use it in your garden to grow tomatoes. You're going to have the fattest, juiciest, most beautiful tomatoes you've ever seen in your life.
Hmm.
Fish shit is amazing. And so that's basically it. Those three things. I pH my water. I put those three things in, and if I have to, I'll pH my soil with some natural sulfur and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I no-till. That's what I'm going into now. I do organic practices, and by doing this, what you do is you build up the biodiversity of your soil. They say in one handful of healthy soil, there should be more living organisms than there has ever been human life on Earth. In one little handful,
Hmm.
worms and nematodes and bacterias and all these different things that are inside of the soil. The problem is when you spray your soil with pesticides and you till your soil, you are killing those microorganisms inside of your soil that feed off of the carbon. So they're no longer there to feed off the carbon, and your soil is not healthy and not sequestering carbon. So, there's a lot of like debate on whether climate change is a real thing. If you look at heat maps of the earth during farming months, there's like 20 times more CO2 being released, like April, May, June, than
Mm-hmm.
any other months. Well, why is this? It's because all the farmers are tilling up the soil and disturbing the carbon that is stored in the soil. So, right, this is the way healthy soil and plants should work. This is soil, right? This is the topsoil. A plant's growing out. The plant is going to take in some carbon. It's going to take carbon through the roots and store it safely underground in the soil. The bacteria and the worms and nematodes and all this stuff feed off the carbon. They poop it out, and that breaks into compounds that plants feed off of. And your I always fuck up mycorrhizal cordyceps. I don't know how to say that. It's such a big word, but they mycorrhizal fungi. They basically, on the roots, there's hairs that come out and feed off of all these different
Right.
things. So you're creating a new biodiversity by having all those different things that I said I put in my soil, plus cannabis, plus no-till. So it's staying there. And what's happening is carbon is being sucked in through hemp better than any other plant. Again, there's studies that
Yeah.
back this up. So then when we cut down the hemp, we're leaving all the carbon undisturbed and planting a cover crop for the winter to keep plants on that soil, because barren soil can also release the carbon. So studies show that by no-tilling, you save 40% of the carbon from coming out of the ground.
Wow.
It's a
That's
huge
huge.
difference. So especially think about dumps, right? What comes off of dumps? Methane,
Methane.
which is a CO2 greenhouse gas, which gets sucked in through plants and safely stored in the soil. So
Yeah.
we may be able to, by growing on landfills, pull all the nasty stuff up out of the soil, build a healthy microorganism soil all around that's helping break down all the food and trash all quicker.
Yeah.
So the dump is breaking down quicker. And from there, you take the hemp and you can make hempcrete with it and pull more carbon out. So you're breaking down, releasing methane while also capturing a lot of that back, and you're just constantly breaking down the dump. The landfill we're talking to is closed because it's too big,
Hmm.
and it's been too big 3 times. They said this is the cap. Never mind, this is the cap. Never mind, this is the cap. All right, this is really the cap. We're gonna cap this off now.
Yeah.
So there's so much trash in there. It's probably the tallest thing in the city. Um,
So you would then plant on top of it and then help it break down,
yep.
and then you just it'll continuously drop at that point.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And
Okay.
and hopefully, more importantly, it'll stop it from leaching into the groundwater. And because that's what's happening, all these chemicals are leaching into people's groundwater. If you have a dump in your town, man, I'm sorry, you're drinking some nasty stuff in
Mm-hmm.
your water.
Yeah.
It's like I
Have
never
you
drink
talked
tap
to
water.
have you talked to that's all I drink, but we don't have a dump in our town, but the neighboring town. However, um, are you talking to water treatment facilities as well? Or is it more on just the water filtration for resi use?
We are It's definitely not residential use. I'm trying to make it that way. Somebody had brought that up on the clubhouse. They said, "Oh, that'd be so cool if you could send people out some hemp to filter out their water, and you could kind of test it out." Because it's really easy to test. There's a thing called a ppm meter, and
Mhm.
you just stick it in your water, and you can stick it in before you filter it and after you filter it, and you can know exactly how much you've filtered out, because it'll say in the beginning 30 ppm, and then at the end it'll say 1 ppm. It's just how it works. So
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we're definitely trying to get in touch with some water filtration facilities at the large scale. There's one 10 minutes from me. We're just trying to get a meeting with them. Everything's kind of weird as people are transitioning to being fully back in the office,
Of
and
course.
so the meetings are this year is such a weird year, even more weird than last year because it's like everything's just moving different. It's tough, but we're trying to
Yeah,
push for
it's
this year to be growing at least.
yeah. So you're growing now. What are you still on the 1/10 of an acre? Have you expanded?
So I have 1 acre leased out in another town, and then it's on a 100 acre farm. So he said if it's successful, we could, really expand this thing out. But he also has an animal farm, and I would really like to see if we could offset some of the CO2 gases that he's putting out, by planting hemp around the pens and everything like that.
Hmm.
It's okay if the animals eat them. They're not going to get high. It's not going to get, they're going to get good amino acids and everything. Honestly,
Yeah,
they're going to be probably really good meat. Um, so that's kind of an idea I've been tossing around with
dude.
him.
Could
And
you
then,
imagine if you set out to reduce carbon emissions, but then make the next best cow feed?
yeah, well,
The
it's
corn people are coming after you.
well, the funny thing is, America, they we used hemp to feed our livestock for a very long time in
Oh,
America.
no way.
People don't know this, but it was hemp was a top five crop in America, so much so that George Washington grew it on his properties. So
Wasn't the
much
first
so,
Model T
yep,
built from hemp?
yep. And also in the 1800s in America, if you did not grow hemp, you could go to jail because they used it so much. You had to grow at least like 300 plants of hemp for export.
It was like part of our quota as being Americans.
And then in 1913, Massachusetts made Indian hemp illegal. And that just started trickling down to reefer madness and everything that went on with that, which was
So
a whole
now we're
bunch
a
of
hundred
BS.
years removed from that, where the pendulum's starting to swing back.
Yep,
And Adam, listen, you're in a very unique situation, and
very.
all of those ups and downs that have put you into this role, your mindset for your employees is fantastic. Your education throughout since you were 5 years old or 7 years old working with your dad at the greenhouse, you
Hmm.
sort of went off and did your mid-20s journey, and you learned a lot during that process, and you come back to your homeland and are really treating people with a lot of respect, and could possibly be in a situation where you're helping reduce carbon emissions everywhere and providing clean drinking water for residents in your backyard. Adam, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's big, man, and I'm actually part of a carbon capture contest. I haven't talked about it at all publicly,
Okay.
but it's $50 million for the winner, and I suspect that a lot of people, it's going to be a lot of tech companies, and there's I have this carbon capture machine, and it's going to capture this much carbon, and I'm going to be like, I'm going to grow the soil and grow hemp on it,
Yeah.
and then I have a few other methods to it as
So check
well.
this out. This is a funny, it may or may not be helpful to you, but I work with FLIR thermal systems, and we have a GF camera that detects carbon
Hmm.
dioxide. So I'd love to get one of those and come visit you.
That would be so fire. That would be so fire, honestly, especially like if we got when we get the landfill project.
A
I keep saying
hundred
I'm
percent.
trying not to say if. I'm like manifesting that this is gonna
Yeah, yeah,
happen.
yeah. And I feel
Um,
like paths cross for a reason.
hmm.
And it's something that I could provide um to help you out
That would be
because
cool data. How big is the camera?
it's like an like 1980s camera
Oh wow.
is what it looks like. Um, but it's, I mean, it's small form factor. It's pretty small,
Yeah.
maybe like a foot by a foot, 8 pounds.
That's really cool. That would be cool for the landfill project to like before and then see how much it changes after with how much
Bro,
it's
I'm
just
telling
leaking
you the
out.
videos, because we work with a lot of I'm in the Marcellus Shale corridor here.
Mm.
So we work with tons of the gas companies, like anybody that is a gas company we work with, like they're using our cameras. We're part of the standard through the federal government for their purposes. So like
Wow.
our cameras are everywhere. Like if you just do a quick search on FLIR GF 320, like you're gonna find 1,000 videos. And I think it could be helpful, especially with the like farms are helpful. Like I can see cows' breath coming out of their nose, the
What?
methane. Like it's so sensitive. It's a helium cooled detector inside of it, so it's
Would
a
it also
sensitive.
show when it's like carbon negative, like when things are sucking carbon? Or would it
I
just
don't
show no carbon emitting out of it essentially?
I don't know. This would be my
Yeah.
first go round.
Oh,
I'm a
hell
level
yeah.
2 certified thermographer, so like I can. This is like my thing.
Yeah.
This is
That's
what I can
really cool.
offer.
That's an interesting job.
It is very interesting. I get to go to. You ever been a fan of like how it's made?
Yes.
Bro, that's my job. Like I get to
That's
go
awesome.
I get to go into these facilities with our cameras and learn their processes of how they make surgical steel out of a
Wow.
out of a piece of ingot from Germany that it is really fun, and it puts me in a lot of unique situations to learn.
Mm.
And just like you, like I love educating people. I just think that it's like I feel like it's a superpower because I don't feel like I'm doing anything special. I'm just sort of
Hmm.
regurgitating info to you.
Yep.
And that is literally my job. Is companies contract with us to sell their equipment to electric utility companies. And like
Mm.
so I have to learn their stuff and then how it fits, similar to what you're doing.
Yep. Oh,
But yeah, I'd love to offer that as a service to you, and we'll work out details on that because I think it could be impactful.
yeah, absolutely. I don't know why my camera just freaked out there. All right.
It's frozen.
Yep. I just realized my computer was plugged in, but for some reason it wasn't charging. It's still not. What's going on here?
It's okay. No problem at
There
all.
we go. All right, now we're back. I'll get the camera loaded up 1 second. There we
Okay.
go. All
There you
right.
go.
Technical difficulties. Even if you
All good.
podcast for 4 years, it'll still happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm working on year number 2 now, and it's like I just roll with the punches. I edit the very, very beginning, but during the course of the actual episode, like there's no editing.
Yeah.
It's just in there. Sorry if anybody is offended by that.
Right.
I
Yeah,
got other
I
stuff
think
I'm doing.
it's cool to show people, it's real, like
Yeah.
no matter how much you do it, stuff happens, especially when you first do it, right? First time I
Uh-huh.
ever podcasted, we had my phone on the table using Anchor recording, and I must have been talking with my hands, and I went over like the sensor on my phone, and it stopped recording. And we
Ooh.
didn't realize that we kept talking for like another hour. And when I looked
Mm-hmm.
down, I'm like, oh shit.
Yep. Been there. Been
And that
there.
happened like 3 times the first time we tried to podcast.
I had my
And
microphone backwards like for the first
oh,
like 7 episodes.
that's
I'm like,
awesome.
why
Hey,
is my audio just total shit?
yeah, it makes a difference, man. Like if I guess I'm kind of spoiled because like I've grown up with mics like that my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I worked a job just to buy equipment. You know what I mean? Like I'm using a lavalier mic, which is like a $400 lavalier mic, but and then I have this thing for making music.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's a beast. This thing's fucking heavy. Hit somebody, you'll knock them out. But it's
Nice.
like it's the same thing. That microphone has 3 different modes on it, and if I didn't know any better, I would have definitely put it on the wrong mode because it's it's an easy thing to do if you're
Yeah.
not like into microphones and a nerd like I am about it. Like
But
it's
I've
just
said this like 4 different times in the last 3 days. People who can take a bunch of information,
hmm
filter it down into digestible content for others are like the most valuable people that I've known in my life because they just like they give you what you need to get going, and then you can figure out what you need to from there. But like you're doing, just the education that you're giving people, that's you're just you're stacking it right now, and I find
yeah.
it very, very intriguing. And I think that you're on a path where you've actually talked to Gemma about this on last week on the episode. It was like in our 20s we like gather all of this experience, and then in your 30s you get to this point where you're like, I got a little bit of cash in my pocket, and you got all these ideas and all this experience
Mm-hmm.
and education in whatever it is. And now you're like, okay, I can do this shit. And you have the
Anybody can.
confidence because you've been through all the shit and you made it through it. And it's almost like we're old men already because it's like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And
Yep.
like, I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to be humble, but like, I'm going to be a G too. Like, this is going to be me. This is
Yep.
my thing. And, don't step in my way you know,
I genuinely am this way to a fault. My fiance gets frustrated with me sometimes because I give too much sometimes, and like sometimes I'll just ignore red flags because I want to keep helping somebody,
mm-hmm.
and it's a bad thing sometimes, but it
Yeah.
always ends up working out because my intentions are good. I think that's why. I'm never looking to use somebody to have somebody be a stepping stool for me. Like I genuinely, we haven't really interacted that much before this, but I was like, cool, one-on-one conversation with somebody I haven't talked to before that's in the Gary V community. Like they probably think pretty similar to me, and we're gonna have a great conversation. And boom, here we are.
Yeah.
It's
An
the
hour
same
and a
thing,
half later.
right? It just works that way because I don't know. I have this thing in me where I just will do whatever it takes to change my family legacy, right? I mentioned my dad is poor. We haven't talked in 3 years now. My dad thinks I'm a drug dealer because I deal
Mm-hmm.
with cannabis and help people with cannabis. Um, but you know, I forgot where I was going with
Changing your
that.
family dynamic.
Oh yes, he was obsessed with genealogy, and I sneakily paid to help him with genealogy. Like when I had money when I turned 18 and everything, I would pay ancestry.com and get little bits and pieces in there. And that helped my dad find, our birth certificate of a grandfather that we think was full blood native. It also showed that we had a ton of land at one point. Like it seemed like we were wealthy farmers. And at some point, something happened that just destroyed all of that. And my family on that side is just all poor. They're all like so much of my family is on SSI and disability and all this stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're now seeing me, and I've never been on SSI or disability, even though I'm in pain every day. Never, never, never. And I'm grinding to change everything and still reaching back to them. Like, come on, come on, come on, come with me. And they most of them don't listen. It's very hard to get your family to really take you seriously. But I think things are gonna change soon. I think that
You got momentum right now.
yeah, there's
You have a
validity
lot of
coming.
momentum. So and not to dig too deep into it, and you can tell me to piss off, but you haven't discussed your mom at all.
Yeah, so my mom and I have a complicated relationship. It's when I was younger, my mom was very much about herself. Um, Unfortunately, when I was about 6 years old, we got taken away from her for some bullshit. She ended up clearing her name by the time I was like 11 years old. But from like 6 to 11, I didn't really even see my mom. They only allowed us to see her for every other weekend for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically over 4 years, I think I saw my mom 24 hours. Um, it was rough. And then I moved in with her and my stepdad because my dad was poor and my mom had married a lawyer.
Yeah.
And he was like, go have an opportunity. Like you'll do something better. And, as much as a prick as my stepdad was, it did teach me that there's another level. Like you don't have to be poor. But my mom and I didn't get along then because my stepdad was a prick. I was acting out,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like I kind of had to raise my sister. Um, when I had kids, that my relationship that was rocky with my mom really changed. At first, everything happened with my son's mom, and my family had thought that I left to Oklahoma to abandon my son. And I kept telling them that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Like, I told y'all what's going on. Do you think I'm lying? Like, I told y'all what's going on. And when I came back, it was like people saw a ghost. They thought I was never coming back. Like, they convinced themselves I was never coming back. And I came back with a vengeance. Like, I'm going to see my kid. Nobody's stopping me. I don't give a fuck what you do. Like, now I have money. Try to stop me. Like, you can't do anything. I'll spend all my money on this, you
Yeah,
know? Um, when that happened, my mom, it clicked for her that she was wrong. And we talked about it. We've talked about a lot of the traumatic stuff that happened as a kid. And my mom is awesome. It's weird how it flipped. My dad was always, me and my dad were like this growing up. And
mm-hmm.
yeah, I still do so many things nowadays where I'm like, I'm my fucking father's son for sure. And even last night, I'm like, it's 1 o'clock. I just got off all the clubhouses and I'm like, I'm hungry. What do I want? A bowl of cereal, and I'm pouring it. I'm like, wow, if this ain't my fucking dad, I don't know what is. Like, this is
Yeah,
always but yeah, now my mom, she's a great grandparent, amazing grandparent, and that changed the dynamic of our relationship. And I love my mom. I've always loved my mom. It sucks that I didn't have a relationship with her
of
growing up.
course.
I was very close to my grandmother, my nana, on my dad's side, and she passed away 10 years ago. So it was like from like 2011 to like 2016 when my mom made up. It was really like I didn't have a mom for a while, and so it got super rocky, and it's great now that I have a relationship with her.
Of course. Yeah, good for you, man. I love that. I love that little backstory too.
Yeah, and if my
And I
dad would
I
stop
appreciate you
being
sharing.
a gossiper, like my dad, my sister is like, before my daughter, like my sister was like the angel. Like, I can't see no wrong in her. She was basically like my daughter, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and my dad just kept talking shit about her. Like, my sister's young, she's making dumb decisions. We all do. And he's like trying to compare her to how my mom used to be and all this stuff. And I basically was like, yo, what is your fucking problem? And he did not like when I started talking to him like that, because now I like, okay, I feel like I'm turning into the patriarch of the family. You want to divide everybody. I want everybody to come back together.
hmm,
What you're doing is wrong. What I'm doing is right. I'm trying at this time, mind you, I'm trying to give my dad thousands of dollars to start his own business, because that business that was failing in 2012 is now being sold this year. So he's about to lose his job.
yeah. Are you gonna
So
buy it?
fuck no.
No.
Uh, I would never buy. Well, I don't know. Actually, now that I can grow on protected land, it wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be a bad buy. That would be cool. Even now, every time I think about projects like this landfill project, I'm like, I wish my dad wasn't such a dick. Like, because
Hmm.
he would bring so much to this. But it's like Gary talks about, you can't let toxic people just stay in your life, right? Like, I
Yeah.
felt like for years before I cut my dad off, I was begging for his attention, because I'm going outside the norm. I'm moving across the country by myself with a fucking suitcase. Like, I did that in 2012. Like, I've done so many wild things that my dad started being like, "There's something wrong. Are you doing drugs?" I'm like, "No, I'm not doing drugs. I'm smoking weed, a lot of weed, but like."
Yeah.
And so like he just associates that with like, I'm a drug dealer, I'm a bad person, and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And
That's certainly an old school mentality about it.
it's weird because he did way more drugs than I'm ever gonna do. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, stop being a judgmental little fuck. It's like we're your kids. Like, we made mistakes. We didn't make as many mistakes as you did on that front. Like, you did a good
Yeah.
job. Like, you
Hmm.
taught us not to do this.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. Like you even give him kudos. He did a good job.
Yeah,
You guys are set up because of that upbringing. And no, man, I love that. I love that you're trying to bring everybody back together to bring everybody in on the fold. Yeah, you can't have toxic people in your life, and you do have to cut them out, but you're not like cutting them out fully. You're just like, okay, I'm just not gonna I'm not gonna go down that road with you because it just
yep.
ends up in an argument or whatever. So like if that's the case, then we just can't talk anymore.
It's like a test, right? So
Yeah.
I initially was like, okay, for the past 4 years, I've made 100% of the effort. I'm gonna stop making an effort and see what happens. And then I
Hmm.
just don't hear from him. And then there was this one time, right? We were scouting a farm, and I remember when we were talking to this lady at the Department of Agriculture conference that we went to. She mentioned that she had a farm in the same town as my dad, and I said, "Hey, do you know so and so nurseries?" She said, "Is Glenn your dad?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She said, "Oh my fucking God. I've known him since he was your age. And everybody knows him. Like he's well known in that whole area. He buys stuff from us all the time. We buy stuff from them."
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to the farm to talk to the owner. And if you've ever been to a business, typically there's a gatekeeper, especially with farmers. They don't want to talk to nobody. They're busy. They just leave them alone, let them work. There's a guy chainsawing. We pull up to this farm and I say, "Hey, is this so and so farm?" I look at my GPS. It says like 302. Look at the house. It says 302. I'm like, this has got to be it. He's like, "Nope, definitely not. Maybe down the street." And I look and I see 40 greenhouses, probably 20 acres in the back. I'm like, "Are you sure? Blank farm, 302 State Road." Like, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Nope, definitely not us." So I pull away, and my partner and I were just, we both were just in silence. And I just like looked at him, he looked at me. I'm like, what the fuck do we do now? And I'm sitting at this stop sign. We're in this like podunk town, so nobody's behind us or coming near us. So I'm just sitting at this stop sign, like, do I turn around and try again? And I look up and to the left and I see the sign for my dad's work. So I'm like, holy fuck. I turned to my ex partner. I'm like, yo, that's my dad's place. Like he knows all the backstory and everything. So he's like, "Oh, do you think we should go ask and see if that's the farm?" I'm like, nah. And I take a left and I drive past it. And then who passes me in the car? My fucking dad.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back from lunch or something. Like just it couldn't have been more perfectly planned. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I literally just like whipped
Yep.
a
I gotta
U-turn
turn around.
and I pull in and I go into the office and apparently my dad hurt himself that day. He was just coming back from the doctors and he was filling out a workman comp claim. So it was kind of bad timing. But
Yeah.
his boss, who knew me because I was there when I was 6 years old, plugging trays, his wild boar that he had actually gored me in the legs a couple of times. Like I had to
Oh
get real
God.
fast. Um, the first thing I notice is on the counter because they're talking on the phone to insurance and everything. So my partner and I are just standing there waiting. Mind you, I haven't talked to my dad in 7 months at this point. So I'm just like I'm sitting there and I look on the counter, cannabis magazine, cannabis magazine, cannabis magazine. So I like pulled them all out and put them all on top. And then I start talking to my dad about what we're working on. And at this point, we were already talking about being on Fox. We already had a bunch of connections lined up. We had our method down. And I was like, is that so and so farm? We're trying to talk to so and so from there. He said, "Oh, yeah, definitely. I know her. I know her very well." And I told him what happened and he laughed. And he was like, "That sounds like her. That sounds like something she'd have her people do." He's like, "I don't know what to tell you, kid." And I was just like, "Okay, that's fine." I just wanted to make sure that was the farm, you know. And then
Uh-huh.
that night we talked for like 3 hours, and apparently he told someone in my family, because us cousins were like this in this
Yeah.
family, and so when the adults talk trash about the kids, we find out. And apparently he said, "I only came there to use him for information and try to use him to talk to his boss and all this crazy stuff." And that was when I was officially just like, I'm done. And I
Yeah.
haven't heard a word from him since. Not even a phone call, text. My daughter was born in that time. You know, I text my dad a picture of her, said what the hospital we're at. I'd love to see you. Didn't come. Still hasn't met my daughter. My son doesn't even know who he is anymore.
Yeah.
And it's awkward at this point. Even if we were to make up, it's like, what happens?
Yeah,
How do you do
exactly.
that?
Like
It's like
lost time.
my
I
kids are gonna
mean,
have so many questions.
yeah, your kids will have questions. I'm sure you have questions, but at the same time, like you'll be able to navigate those waters because you did a similar thing with your mom, even though that maybe
True.
that it's not a parallel, but you have the tools in the toolbox to make it right and bring
Mhm.
everybody in the fold. That seems to be a thing that you can do. You did it with your buddies, you've done it with business partners, you've done it with AT&T employees, you've done it with your business now with your employees that they more or less picked you as America's top pick, in that situation. So like you have this energy and attractiveness about you that is it's infectious, dude. And
Thank you.
yeah, and I think where I can dovetail this into I'd hope you come on for another episode.
Hell yeah.
I do have to jump off right now, but on a lighter note, where can people find you? What kind of an action item for our listeners here?
So you can definitely find me everywhere. What did Adam say? I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. What did Adam everywhere. It's beautiful that nobody else has thought of that name. I finally
Yeah.
did it.
What did Adam say?
Um, Action item, definitely. We released the tattoo video. We didn't really get into that too much because we were talking about business stuff, which is I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah,
Just to kind of
man.
wrap it up, this is the tattoo. It's the self-aware hair. It's Gary V's NFT. I won it, and I told Gary if I won, I would get it tatted. And 3 days later, it was on my skin. My videographer Isaac from Dream District, definitely follow them too. The two T's at the end, Dream District. Um, and he followed me around for 2 days. We made a banger of a we
It
call
is
it a
it is a
movie.
dope video, man.
Yeah,
I'd say it's a mini movie. Like that's an
yeah.
indie film, dude. That was so sick.
Thank you. That's what we were going for. Like he was like, okay, everybody does vlogs. I want to make a fucking movie, bro. And I was like,
Dude, you got the
I
drone
trust you.
shot. As soon as I saw a drone shot, I'm like, bro, this is next level. Next
Well,
level.
it's wild too because like I won't keep it too long. Sorry, but
You're good.
the drone actually stopped working the day we left. We were originally gonna get a drone shot of it following us out, so like the drone aerial of the house and then following us out, and
Mm-hmm.
the gimbal on it wouldn't balance, so it broke. It
Yeah.
fixed itself, like it just randomly fixed itself. And he was like, bro, the drone is fixed, it's working. Could I come by for the shot at 6 in the morning and shoot it again? Because that's like when we left. I was like, yeah, I'll be sleeping, bro, but yeah, come get it.
Yeah.
And he did. He came and got the shot just for 2 seconds of a clip. Like that's how dedicated he is. So
But bro, that made the intro to the video, like that made it. It just shoots like immediately. I'm thinking next level, and
was
then the
people probably
quality.
weren't expecting that, right? Because it's like it
No.
goes from cell phone video.
Yep.
And I tried to think in my head, I'm like, how do I transition to this? And that's why I was like, this is the last cell phone video. It's gonna go to Isaac from here.
And then
I'm just
boom.
like, I want to do something fucking wild that as soon as they see this, they know I did work on it. And he's like drone shot, boom, and then me coming down the stairs with like dope music and everything. And I'm like,
Oh, dude, the fact of like you had the drone shot and then it enters into the house and then it's you getting out of bed, you're putting on the K Swisses. Like, I'm like, this is big brain shit right here.
somebody didn't even real like I was talking to somebody last night about that. Like I was wearing the Gary V 003s in the video, and you could see me putting them on, and we tried to get the vision of it saying positivity and optimism because we needed that all day. And I
Uh-huh.
wear those shoes on days that I know are going to be hard, especially because it's like I just look down at my feet, I'm like, I got this. And this is like another reminder of like I got
Hmm.
this. It's like we got this. So yeah, I'm so grateful for him. I definitely please check that out, y'all. We're trying to get it in front of Gary. So far, I think Zane has seen it, and Zane is Team Gary V. So I would love for more Team Gary V to even see it because, as we know, as Gary V fanatics, Team Gary V is just as important as the man himself.
Yep.
He'll tell you that himself as well. Team Gary V is amazing, and I love seeing them like move on and do big things after Gary too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know you love that stuff because the fact that you helped one of your employees then to go out and branch out on her own, man. I love your vibe. I love everything that you got going on. And I'm hoping that I can help you out in some small way in
Hell
the
yeah,
future. But I hope this isn't the last time, Adam, that you and I discuss this stuff. And
definitely not.
bro, thank you so much. What did Adam say? He's everywhere. So get after it. And as always, guys, enjoy the journey. Thank you. Take care.
So the journey has begun. If you guys listening to our content today had any kind of value or you were moved in any way, please feel free to subscribe, pass it on, let everybody know that these two guys are the truth. They're out here just trying to do good things to make good people. Thanks.